Evening, guys. This is episode 4 with Musicians Forum podcast. Real excited to have these guys today. You guys are going to know when you see them. Richard, Michael, Logan, these guys known as the C's. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So thankful you guys are here. So when I was talking about starting this podcast, you guys were right on my first on my list. You guys knew the scene, the music. You guys played it, and several of the guys say, call them, try to get them together again. So real excited to see you guys back. So what was irony was, so we've been talking about it for the last 2 weeks trying to get you guys on. And then today, Richard shows on his Facebook page a clip from 2014. You guys went in the Lake Cumberland Battle of the Bands.
Yeah.
Now that was, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Hard to. I'm gonna let you do the math.
It was quick math. It's one of those things where I didn't go to school for it, but I figured it out pretty quick.
Right. It does not seem like that long ago.
It wasn't. No. So I remember opening for you guys. Well, so Josh Parsons, he had that little music place down on 25 on the Corbin near Brian's Furniture.
Yeah.
The Crow's Nest. Yeah. I think Zach Collins was in on, a couple other guys, and my sister we put together a band, and she's like, "Oh my God, we're going to open for the C's."
I remember that stuff.
It was so fun. Yeah. It was just us, but
yeah.
But so the Battle of the Bands, what happened? So did they just sponsorships or what?
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I think maybe it was a lot of planning. I know that the radio station there was a big part of that. Nona was a big part of that. She was kind of the heart and soul, really.
Yeah.
Well, it also kind of fell apart around the time that whenever Clear Channel had bought everything out, and they got rid of a lot of their DJs.
Yeah.
They got rid of a lot of their personnel, and all these personnel were the people that were actually making things happen in that community. And it got bought out, and they're airing stuff that's being recorded in Texas or Nashville or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
So to be honest with you, that's what killed.
That's right.
Yeah, it sucked the heart and soul out of the local radio scene. The radio stations that were supporting the local scene.
Yeah,
it got corporatized, and you lost the people in the communities that really cared about what was going on.
Yeah, and that's so you'd say a high school band, they're getting together, these guys in a garage, they're trying to do the Battle of the Bands, and they're getting together, and that you see it in movies all the time. You just don't have it anymore. You know,
and it's sad because it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it because you got to network with other bands. You got to see a lot of cool bands that we had heard about and really maybe never got to see, never got a chance to play with before.
Yeah.
But for us, we were always kind of perfectionists. We were always trying to push ourselves to the next level, and that was just a really cool way to do it because we got to really put ourselves under the spotlight. We were judged. We got notes. So for us, we really enjoyed that part of it because.
So how many times did you do it?
Was it 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
Yeah.
It was 4 because let's see, the first year we didn't place at all. Then we got third. Then we got second. Then we won it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was cool. Just the gradual improvement. We're getting there.
Yeah.
We're going to win this thing sooner or later.
Well, I got to ask who kept the trophy? Who got the big one?
It's at my house.
This is yours.
Logan's got the trophy.
That's awesome. You don't pass it around anymore? No. That's rude, man.
I sleep with it. Still.
Logan gets separation anxiety, so we let him hang on to it.
So that year, you had an album come out that year, didn't you? Or was it the year before?
Let's see.
We were in between.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was
the first album out, 2011.
Yeah, but we were playing material off the new album.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then was that the same year that you won the Lex?
Lexi Awards. What year was that?
2015.
2015. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was the next
boom,
year.
Boom.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of momentum those couple years. The first album had been out. We were working really hard on that, on the new album, Give Up the Ghost, and kind of in the process, there was some momentum leading up to that release. So we had a lot of cool things happen kind of in a short span.
So would you say when you were playing, was it mostly you knew that you were going to be recording a new album? Were you working on new material then, and you basically knew, this is coming up, or was it just, or you just eventually had enough and you said, well, okay, let's go and do an album?
No,
it was
intended.
planned.
It was intended.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were constantly writing.
Yeah.
Constantly writing, and basically from the time the first album was finished, we were already starting on our next album. I mean, we would practice for our shows and stuff like that, which by that point, we kind of had down to a science, and it was all muscle memory, and then we'd have time to just work on new material. So I mean, we really took a long time on a lot of these songs.
Yeah, the second album, I mean, they both were a labor of love, but that second album really, we kind of had that first one under our belt. We felt like we were growing in some of the things that we were doing and the approach that we were taking. I think we grew as a band during that time. So, we were pumped to start playing some of that new material. And well before the album came out, we were playing.
As soon as we wrote a new one,
good chunks of.
we
were playing good chunks of that new album live.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people that had seen us, were pretty well familiar with most of the songs on
By
the
the time the
album
album came out.
before it ever even come out. Yeah.
Well, and that's what you want, because they're going to want to buy the album because they like the songs already.
Yeah.
Can sing along or
Well,
thrash
we
along.
can see
Whatever.
how it goes over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then that year, so you guys played Manchester Hall. And
Yeah,
that
Manchester
same-
Music Hall. We opened for Trivium. We played there a few different times.
Yeah.
But at one point it was Buster's,
It's still
and
Buster's. They
then
had
it
front room and
changed.
back room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we opened for Trivium there
That's
at Manchester Music
awesome.
Hall. We got to, because we won the Battle of the Bands, we got the spot on Master Musicians Festival. So we were able to perform at Master Musicians Festival when
That's
Counting
awesome.
Crows.
Counting Crows.
was the headliner.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've actually, we've got to play with some pretty cool national acts and got a lot of good opportunities.
Unknown Henson.
Unknown Henson, yeah. With Jubilant,
That
yeah.
was my favorite. I got to introduce him onto the stage. That was probably the.
That was the highlight of
You
music
still
career.
relive that? You hold the trophy and go over that moment with the kids?
I'll go get my trophy and introduce Unknown Henson to the stage.
So, we're going to go way back.
Yeah.
So, when you guys first decide, okay, this band has to happen? And, I know each of you probably had your own kind of musical thing going on until you met, but what was that first time you said, all right, let's just do this band?
So at the C's or just like from the get-go?
See, I don't know a lot of that background before the C's. So was there something
Well,
before the C's?
oh, yeah.
Before the C's, me and Mike started playing together when I think you might have still been in high school. wasn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
We started playing. He had a band that was doing a lot of covers, and started writing their own stuff. And it was you and Roy and Brandon and Jonathan Collett.
Yeah.
We played a seventh of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I come in and started playing kind of a second guitar for them at one point. And then even before that, me and Mike would write stuff just on guitars out in his shack.
Oh yeah, we would just hang out and
Yeah.
learn songs and
Yeah.
write, a lot of cover, just learning
Oh, yeah.
the songs that we liked and wanted to play.
Yeah.
And then it turned into me and him started Shotgun 12.
Yeah, so Shotgun 12 was around like 97, 98, 99.
Started in 97.
Yeah.
Ended
Okay.
right around 2000.
And that was really, like we were talking before we started the podcast, that was really kind of the heyday, I think, of the London music scene.
So I want to stop your stories there and let's go there, because that to me, that was before my time. So I didn't really get in on that part of it. But from what I hear, so you guys are telling me, like, didn't matter where you played, a pop-up concert,
Didn't matter.
people showed.
Yeah. That was literally, and this was pre-social media days, so
Yeah.
you was just like had people calling other people, and it
you
was
make
like,
flyers.
yeah, you actually made flyers.
It's the thing that you tape up on the windows
Yeah.
when you walk in a store.
It's weird, but
It's memes on paper.
it's exactly what
So
it is.
Logan's got it.
Paper meme.
It was memes on paper with a date and a time,
Yeah.
and where to be.
Nice.
So we, in Shotgun 12, we started playing. There wasn't really a lot of opportunity in London at that time. There were just, there were no venues. We were still a dry county. So a lot of that, we were pretty much going to Richmond and Lexington occasionally. The Firehouse in Richmond was kind of like the happening spot.
Yeah, I heard
that
about
was
that.
where we would go and just play, a few times a month. And sometimes they would just call us on a whim, be like, "Can you guys come up play tonight? We want you open for so and so." And then that's where me and Logan actually met Rich.
Yeah.
Richard was in a band called Peter Dragon
Okay.
that was playing at the Firehouse fairly regularly. So we kind of got, fast friends and
Open for each other.
Yeah.
They would headline a show, we would open. We would headline a show, they would open.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, nice. Okay. And at that time, was your band based in Richmond, or were you?
Richmond, Manchester. I was in school at EKU.
Gotcha.
And a couple of the guys were too. We would come to Manchester to practice because one of the guys was there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So Richmond was a melting pot. That's where
Richmond was
everyone.
the
that was the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
And then so we became friends with Richard and got to know him because our bands were playing together a lot. And then slowly, I think the scene kind of shifted from the Firehouse to across the street to what was then MF Hooligans. And we played a ton of shows there.
What were you playing at that time? I mean, so 98, is that kind of electronica rock, or what? Are you still kind of in the
No, it
was
straight
more
metal?
just kind of grungy
New
guitar,
metal.
new
Okay.
metal.
New
Yeah,
metal.
yeah,
Got it.
top stuff, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, in any given weekend, you could go up to Richmond, play a show, and there would be 300 or 400 people there.
Yeah.
Like we were talking earlier, we kind of hijacked the Chicken Festival one year.
That's nuts.
We were young punks and wanted to play music. We was like, we're not cool enough to be, a part of the actual Chicken Festival. So we hijacked. We had set up a stage there next to a little music store used to be called Sam's Music.
Yeah, I remember what that's.
Just a flatbed trailer. This was very we just really just kind of pulled it together out of the blue. It wasn't planned. It was just like, let's do this. And we put a flatbed trailer together, threw our stuff up there. We was running extension cords all over the place, trying to get enough power to run everything. It was very, guerrilla.
Well, that's the way
rock.
to do it,
We
right?
had three
And,
bands who played 2 nights. They shut us down the first night.
Yeah.
Then the second night, they were just like, well,
They
there's
just
nothing we
was
can
like,
do
well,
about
whatever.
Yeah.
it.
They let us do
We're
it.
going to do it.
But there was, 300 or 400 people there.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's just how it was then. It was crazy.
So were you with them at that time?
No.
Did you didn't?
I watched that show.
You were there, but you weren't
Yeah.
on the stage.
Yeah, that was a different band at the time, but like I
Yeah.
said, we were all part of the same scene, and it was,
Yeah.
it was just a different time. It was just a totally different vibe. You could pretty much pull anything together, and people would show up because they were excited to hear it.
So go ahead.
The ones downtown that you put on, what were they?
Oh yeah, Bring the Noise. We had a series called Bring the Noise.
We had Overkill.
Most people don't know this.
We had
This is a
Overkill,
little fun fact for you. We booked a show called Bring the Noise. It was like a group. We had just a bunch of different bands on the bill.
Yeah.
We actually brought Overkill, the band Overkill, to the London Community Center and played.
Oh my
And how many
gosh.
people would you think showed up for that?
There was a ton. I couldn't even tell you.
Probably 400 people ish.
Oh wow. I can imagine
Yeah.
having a band like that.
Oh yeah, and then of course we had some of the popular local bands at that time. Local
Yeah.
Honey. There was a band out of Florida,
The Blue Honey.
Blue Honey.
Yeah.
Local restaurant.
Chicken wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, no plug.
Blue Honey, and then there was what was the band from Florida that used to come?
Gone Mad.
Gone Mad.
Oh, they were great.
Yeah, and
We played there. Well, you had a couple of them, right? Or a few of
I
them?
think there were like 3
Yeah.
total that we.
I know we
played.
played.
A couple were at the Civic Center. Did we have it at the Civic Center in Corbin?
No, that was Seven Fest.
Seven Fest. That's
Yeah,
right.
That was Jonathan.
I can't even remember. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
There was a
Since
lot
we've
of
been-
shows. There was a lot of shows.
Yeah. But a lot
Man.
of local people just, bands would get together, rent out a place, throw a show, a ton of people would show up, and it was awesome.
Of course, history lesson at that time. See, would you say it's 98, 99?
Ish,
Okay.
Yeah.
Internet's not necessarily
Right.
the coolest thing right then
Right.
because it's dial up, and
Social
so
media
people aren't
really-
hanging. They're
yeah.
getting out.
Yeah.
So yeah, history lesson for you kids. There was a time when we actually had to go listen to music and not just pipe it in.
And the scene was better. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to fathom that.
Yeah.
You would think now, as easy it is to promote something, or,
Mm-hmm.
you can post it on Facebook and 1,000 people
there was
know
barely cell
within 5
phones.
minutes.
We would flip phone.
It's crazy
Yeah.
the difference in the music scene and how many people would just show up to shows.
That's wild.
Well, people lived it too. I mean, people that wasn't even in the bands
Yeah.
loved music, and they
Yeah.
would show up.
Yeah. Yeah, they knew the bands, they knew the songs. They were, it was a community.
Yeah.
It was a community.
So during that, so you guys were in the same places, playing the same bars or venues or whatever. Did it just slowly start come together? Oh man, we got to do something else, or was that a little bit later?
Yeah, there was a few different iterations that I was in a band shortly for a little while called the Simpletons.
I was in that band with him.
Yeah.
Me and
Okay.
Logan played.
That's where the C's kind of grew off of.
Before the Simpletons, me and Logan was in another band called
Goldfish
Goldfish Theory.
It was great.
And we actually released an album with Goldfish Theory.
Okay.
And then started the Simpletons, and that's kind of where that's where me and you really first
Right.
actually did anything together. Me and Richard got together on that project, and knew right away there was some chemistry there.
And Jeremy, that's where Jeremy came in.
Yeah, Jeremy.
with me too. I know Jeremy played with you guys a little bit, but
Yeah,
that's where I first met Jerm.
Okay.
Yep. So he was around, and then when that kind of went through whatever iteration it was, and
Right.
we decided it was time to kind of do something different. That's when we reached out to Logan, because obviously we all knew Logan. I had played music with him for years. We already knew there was a chemistry there. Richard and Jeremy was on board, so it just kind of made sense. It's like, this is the dream team.
So what year would you say that was?
2005-ish.
2005. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So we got together, and what was it like? Was it the first day we got together? We wrote the first track, Human Condition, off of our first album.
Man. So, all right, because I know, Richard, man, you've got so many influences, and I want to ask each of you, because what you're essentially doing is you're melting all this together
Right,
when
yeah.
you're doing the C's.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with Logan.
Me? Oh, wow.
So at that time, you probably were playing stuff maybe wasn't really what you wanted to do until these boys came along. I'm not going to assume that, but where were you getting your inspiration from?
Yeah,
What were you
pretty
saying?
close.
This is what I want to do.
It all kind of shows through, man. It's no secret I worship Meshuggah. So that's where a lot of my heavier stuff will
Yeah.
come from. But God, I'm such an '80s pop freak. I mean, and I say this, and I'm completely not joking. Flock of Seagulls, their guitar player is crazy. And if you go through and listen to any of my delay stuff, these delay cleans and poppy, kind of bouncing around delays and swoops and swirls, that's where I got it.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I'm not even joking. Not even joking.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No.
We all have a pretty eclectic.
I mean, you go through and listen to
I can imagine
stuff from Tears for Fears, Duran Duran, Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
Any of those guitar players, they're atmospheric guitars and swirls and all that junk. And Flock of Seagulls. Go back and listen to Ran Away. I mean,
Well, I'm going
guitars
to.
the guitar parts in that are something that you've never paid attention to, but when you do, you're like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, for real.
And so that pretty much whenever
Yeah.
you guys were putting together, you said, this is the sound, I'm going to carry this sound through. And
I'm going to mix a blend of Flock of Seagulls and death metal. And
Flock of
see how
Seagulls
it
means
goes.
Meshuggah. That was
Yeah.
that should have been the sticker.
I was
on the
gonna-
cover of the album.
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, not even joking. I mean, it's embarrassing the amount of love that I have for Hall & Oates.
So I never would have picked up on that.
Before COVID, he was going to buy tickets for my birthday to go see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go see Hall &
River
Oates.
Band, Hall &
Hell yeah,
Oates.
let's go.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
I do. I draw crazy inspiration from junk like that and just make it sound heavier.
That's awesome.
It works.
Sweet. What about you, Rich?
9 Inch Nails.
Of course.
My favorite. And I think that's what I brought to the band that none of the other drummers were doing. Was I liked electronic stuff, so got a sampler. And my inspiration for that was seeing 9 Inch Nails at Woodstock on the pay-per-view thing.
The 94?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing Chris Brenna playing drums, but he was hitting pads too, and I was thinking, what sound is that making? And you pick up on what he was doing, so that's what got me started with that.
Which isn't easy, because
No.
I just picked up a Roland SPD, and you used it this past Saturday, first time, and the whole entire time I'm saying, how did Rich do this for so many years? It's a whole mindset change.
It takes a lot of practice for me, but that's the fun part of it. Sitting at home, it's not like you're just playing drums by yourself. You're making other music too, so it gives you something to experiment around with.
So what was your first sampler that you had? Whenever
XP, the first edition of
the first
Rich.
Roland.
Yeah. And then my wife bought me the newer one,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the only two I've ever had.
Wow.
But I've got an assortment of keyboards and synthesizers.
I was going to say, that's not all you got, is it?
No.
Oh yeah, he's got a room full of cool gear, but a lot of the stuff that ends up on the sampler you actually create on keyboards.
on
or
synthesizers.
Oh, so you make your
and
own
sample it
samples.
in, right.
Oh man, I did not know that. That's awesome.
No stock samples.
Yeah.
That's authentic.
Right.
That's awesome. And so you just kind of, with 9 Inch Nails and that inspiration that you saw from that, you just kind of carried that through for your own flavor.
That's been my favorite.
Was that when you first said, okay, I'm going to play the drums, or you were already kind of
I
playing?
was already a drummer, but
Okay.
that's the moment that I decided I want to play like that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of music I want to make.
Yeah.
And it took me 10, 11 years before.
was gonna say-
the samplers can't, because the sampler...
Technology had to catch up.
Right, technology had to catch up.
And
I
then-
did not have all the money that Trent Reznor had.
Then here's the other thing: is the band leader sees you walking in with a sampler under your arm, and like, what are we doing here?
Right.
So that had to be a hard sell too.
Well,
maybe no.
I remember us having to say, turn the samples up in the PA because
Oh yeah.
they're a part of our show.
Yeah, everybody was, had a tendency to kind of make it like a background thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
No, this is the
Richard
real-
is our
Yeah.
drummer, but he's also like our keyboard player, our synth player, like, and it's prominent.
Each treated as an
It was-
instrument.
yeah,
Gotta have it up.
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. And so whenever you guys decided to get together, it's like, oh yeah, now I get to play
Oh, yeah.
and really do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, it was completely open.
Yeah.
Whatever we could think up and, dream up,
hmm
there was no rules. So,
I know when I first saw you guys, that's the first time I'd seen someone in the area. I mean, like you said, you could watch the big guys do it and figure out there's some kind of magic there. Don't know
Right.
wizardry behind however they're doing it, and then to see you guys actually use it and play it, I'm like that.
yeah.
That's some heady stuff.
I think that's one of the things that set us apart at the Battle of the Bands. One of those guys come up and he was like, when you hit that sampler, I knew I was in for something different,
Yes.
Yeah.
because we were probably the only band that used a sampler at the Battle of the Bands.
Yeah, nobody was doing that. I mean, and especially not blending it the way we were with the stuff, the heavier. I mean, because he's full on.
Oh yeah.
This is not like I'm playing a little
He's
drum
full
beat.
of drumming.
Yeah, and
And doing that
and doing
same time,
samples,
yeah.
and so that
Yeah.
was.
If you guys get a chance to watch some of his videos he posts, it's killer. This guy, just by himself. I mean, not without a band around him, let alone that. But
Apologies to the neighbors.
yeah,
Yeah. But speaking of videos, we've got the C's still has a YouTube channel where like a lot of our live performances are on.
We
there.
got a couple just drum cams of him doing his thing.
Oh yeah, we would always put a camera on Richard, so that was always a.
I'm just gonna plug. They brought bling, so I got stickers and stuff. But listen, these albums are still out there, and I'm sure Michael has a delivery service. He'll bring them to you.
Yeah.
They're online too. You can.
They're
get them,
online, streaming.
Yeah.
So Mike, what about you? Where'd you get your
so
inspiration?
Richard kind of skipped a whole list of bands.
Oh yeah, let's go back.
Nine
No,
Nine Inch
yeah.
Nails is not
Okay.
not my only favorite.
That's what just kind of turns you on to that idea.
I
Yeah.
love the early Tool stuff. I still love Tool, but as an influence, I can't play like Danny Carey does now. On those first couple of albums, I could kind of make do. Now he's so far ahead of the
yeah.
game that
Crazy.
I can't catch up. But I love Tool and Alice in Chains.
Oh, yeah.
That's what made me have my drum set set up like I have it now. I had, just like every kid, you get 15, 16 years on double bass, 15 toms or whatever.
That was some of
And
the first guitar stuff I learned was Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
after Pantera released Far Beyond Driven,
Mm.
I was like, I can't do that, so I don't need those. Got rid of
So you
the
started
bass
weeding out
drum.
the stuff.
Yeah.
And then went with the Sean Kinney kit with one on top, two floors, and that's the way it's been ever since. That's the way it is now. No double bass, single bass drum. So
Yeah, and I've seen your foot action. It works. You don't need
You
to
can pull off the double bass with the single
You're
pedal.
fine.
Yeah.
but yeah, those three, and like Logan said, I love Depeche Mode just for the electronic stuff and The Cure,
Oh, yeah.
Soundgarden. I mean, there's a whole list of bands that I can name, but
So right now, what are you listening to? Did you
Spirit Box right
Okay.
now.
Yes.
That's
All
what
right.
I've listened to for the
Okay.
past.
Yes.
I saw them in Louisville at Louder Than Life in September, and I don't think it's left my CD player, phone, anything since.
Saw them advertised on Facebook and looked them up, and I got glued to that album.
Spirit Box?
Spirit Box.
Okay, I want to check them out. I'm not.
My little cousin went with me, and she was a big fan, and I had never seen them,
Mm-hmm.
hadn't really heard them. Blew my mind.
All right,
I was like, I'm a fan. As soon as it was over, it's like, I'm a fan.
that's awesome.
It's incredible.
Awesome. What you, Mike?
So, kind of cut my teeth on all the 90s bands growing up. Of course, heavily influenced by 80s, a lot of 80s bands. Some of the ones that Logan mentioned, Duran Duran and some of that stuff. But I think really when I started kind of coming to my own, it was around, in the 90s. Kind of really through a lot of the grunge rock stuff. Certainly Soundgarden, Alice in Chains,
Yeah.
a lot of that kind of stuff. I think, from there it kind of become like really got into Tool and Perfect Circle, any of that kind of stuff. Always been a big fan of the Deftones. Later on, kind of got turned on to Mars Volta and some of the weird stuff they were doing. But yeah, that's just kind of a, as I come up through music, just kind of picked up things that.
Just in each probably stage of your life,
Yeah.
that just kind of was something for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you find your voice? So like you decided, okay, this is way I'm going to sing. This way I'm going to sound. Or
Yeah, so the first band I was in, I didn't really ever tend, I don't think, to be the vocalist. It was
Yeah.
just kind of one of those things like, we need a singer. Here's a mic, sing the song. And
No one ever wants to sing. I don't know why. It's
it
hard.
just was not. I never saw that. You know,
Yeah.
I started playing drums from a really young age. That was kind of my first entrance into playing any instrument or anything like that.
Okay.
And
Didn't know
then kind of got tired of doing that by myself because there was nobody to jam around with. So I kind of picked up a guitar and started strumming around and picked up a few things, but it kind of just became one of those things like, we need a singer. Can you sing the song, or you want to try that?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started. And I think it took a little while to kind of, figure out what was comfortable for me and kind of where I wanted to be and what my range was, and really develop my own unique style.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was over a long period of time. I mean, you go back to the early Shotgun 12 stuff, it's dramatically different from Goldfish Theory, and then Goldfish Theory is dramatically different from, the Simpletons or the Seas or anything, so
Right.
it's been a trajectory.
Sure.
And my influences change, so
And that's okay. I mean, we all got to kind of grow from that,
I feel like as long as you're growing, I mean, that was kind of always our thing, is like, we always wanted to push ourselves to do something different, to do better, to do what we're doing and stay ourselves, but take it to the next level.
Right.
And that's was kind of my musical journey as well, just as a vocalist.
Goldfish Theory is really where you stepped up.
Yeah, that was when I kind of, I think I found my stride, probably in Goldfish Theory, and that was really, things kind of settled in at that point as far as like what my vocals, what I wanted my vocals to be and how they should sound.
Right. Now, so when you're developing all that, and this is something when you're building a band, you try to figure this out, because I know the band iterations I've been in, you ultimately want to get booked.
Yeah.
You ultimately want to grow your fan base, and then you really want people to like what you do. So you try to do, okay, what can we do that people will enjoy? It's kind of like the, sugar to get them, to feed. So did you find yourself doing a lot of that with the earlier bands and less with the C's, or did you find getting booked and the Battle of the Bands and all those things that you kind of had to do some mainstream stuff? Did you alter any?
Not really. That's never really been. If anything, we were kind of anti that. We were stubborn. We wanted to be true to ourselves, and if it was detrimental to people liking what we did,
we're not the band for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, we're not for everybody.
Yeah.
And
we're
by
okay
that
with
point, by that point, we had done that for years and years, and we're just like, look, if it's worth it,
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's not worth it,
It seems like it was. I mean, you guys were getting booked, and you played some big shows.
We didn't put so much focus on the whole booking and trying to do all that. We just really played for ourselves.
We wrote stuff that we would go home and throw in
and
listen to and enjoy. It wasn't necessarily ever a consideration like, what are people going to think, or are people going to like it?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, are we happy with this? Like, is this something we would jam and be like, this is killer? And that was always really like, if we were deciding, do we like this song? Is it working? That was kind of the conversation that we had. Was like, would we listen to this?
Yeah.
I will say this though, we went in consciously thinking, like, we didn't cater to anybody, but we always wanted it to sound good. We didn't want to make unlistenable stuff.
Oh yeah.
We didn't want it to be so, because we don't like that stuff. I don't like to listen to stuff that I can't really get into. It's just noise or whatever.
Yeah, it has to have a hook. It has to be listenable and have something that's appealing. But it was always like stuff that we felt like that made us happy.
Yeah.
We was writing music that we were excited to make and wanted to make.
You feel like that last album that you guys did, that really was, you had something to say, and that was the sound you wanted, and you did exactly.
Albums.
Yeah,
I think both albums was okay. I think the second album is probably closer to that vision, because we had a lot of time to grow and learn and get better at writing together, and kind of taking our execution up to what our vision was. That first album, we were just kind of getting started. We had a great collection of songs, but that was our first time getting in a studio and recording together.
That is so hard, that first one.
Yeah.
And then you learn more from that when you're driving home going, oh gosh, I wish I'd done it this way.
Yeah.
Or you put that CD in, you're like, oh man, that wasn't exactly
Well,
what
you always take mental notes of that too.
That's
Like, next time I'm going to
learn that lesson. Which we had all been in the studio and recorded.
Sure.
Me and Logan had a couple albums under our belt by the time we got to the sea, so we were familiar with that. But it's always, it's just always a different animal, because things change so much, and the way you approach it is different, and So yeah, but I think the second album was just we had so much more under our belt as far as experience and learning from what we did the first time around that we were probably a little closer to our vision. I would say maybe
We're
on the
more
second
tuned
album.
in.
Yeah, dialed in. Yep.
Now, who did that album?
The second album?
Yes.
We recorded that in Richmond at 13 o'clock.
That's right.
Yeah.
13. Yeah.
Corey.
Yeah.
Corey Thompson.
Yeah, Corey and Nick.
Yeah.
Yep.
So would you recommend? Because I know a lot of folks, a click, sitting in front of a microphone by yourself in a booth is the most daunting thing you've ever.
Yeah.
And then you know that you're paying for the hour.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that right off the bat to someone just to get one under your belt, or is it better to play a while before you get in there? Because that's rough on a guy.
So definitely, which you got to balance everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're excited to get in the studio and you're, everybody wants to get something done and get something out, and I think there's something to be said for that, just getting in there and knocking it out. But I know that we were a machine.
Yeah.
We were dialed in.
But before we went into the studio, we had these songs dialed in.
You have to.
Just absolutely complete muscle memory. We knew these songs. I don't think on both albums, there's maybe 3 songs that you even used a click to.
I think like the second one we used to click.
Did you?
Because of the weird timing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know the first one you didn't.
The first one we winged some of it, clicked some of it.
And you recorded them without us. You didn't even do
I recorded the
scratch
drums.
tracks.
I recorded the drums to the first album in 2 days.
Yeah.
I did one song one night and then the rest of the album the next day.
Oh wow! So you didn't play together. You just did
No,
separate.
I did the drums.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
at that point, especially on the second album, I would say you could probably record Rich doing a take and then record him doing another take and almost lay them over each other.
That's
The
awesome.
second album was one day. We started like at noon.
Yeah.
We were done by 8. I done all the drum tracks that one day.
That's how much work we had put into each song.
And I'm not
Before
changing
we
stuff.
went
I'm not a
into
jazz
the studio.
musician. We played it so much that I knew it. I wasn't going to try to.
You had the math
I knew
down.
that, like you said, you're paying for time. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to. I'm going to try this here.
Yeah.
Nope, it's the way I've been playing it.
Would you say? Because I know some musicians, they love to have the band. Would
Yeah.
you say that takes some out of it? Because the live, when you're recording, you kind of want to capture the live essence of the band playing together. But for you guys, it probably didn't.
The way I
really
play at
affect it.
home, like if I went home and played those songs,
Yeah.
it's the exact same way that I would play on
Yeah.
stage.
Okay.
I mean, I don't just sit there and
Yeah.
it's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
It's physical. So
Okay.
I play it the way I play it.
Yeah.
Did we do scratch tracks on that album? Was you playing along with Logan on any of that, or you
I don't
just
think so.
you just went in and
I
knocked
did
it
it.
out? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many days? Wait a minute. How many songs?
Was there 12 or 13 on there?
13.
Yeah.
I did 13 songs in one day for that record. And then,
Oh man.
I think the first
Oh, my
night, I think on the separation, we set the drums up on a Friday
I
night.
did like 3 one night, then like the rest of them the next, or something like that.
I think I did. We set the drums up. We got the mic set up, and then I think it was like, let's do a track, see how it sounds. And it was The Great Wave, and it was the track that's on the album.
Yeah.
One take.
Man.
And then the next day, I think we did the rest of it.
Wow. That's awesome.
But like he said, we were a machine.
Yeah.
We knew what we were doing. So
That was always like a priority. Like I said, we were a little bit perfectionists. We always were striving to better ourselves. Everything that we done.
we had the super huge whiteboard with notes.
Yeah,
at
literally
practice.
like a 4x8 whiteboard on the wall with like time codes wrote out. We even wrote for our live show. We would even write like little interludes and intermissions where we would seamlessly
Time out the stages that
Yeah.
you staged where you were going to be and what you said and all.
Yeah, everything.
Oh, wow.
Like down to like we could play an entire set almost within a minute.
In fact, for the Battle of the Bands deal, they had we played 20 minutes the first night or
Yeah.
whatever. We had it down to 20 minutes. We didn't go over. We didn't go under.
Yeah.
It was 20 minutes. We said, "See, you were done." We played.
Yeah.
The next day it was 40 minutes. We had a 40-minute set.
Yeah.
When the clock hit 0 as we were like, "Thank you, we're the C's."
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
So it was a work, but
Yeah.
it was fun.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So would you say, because, would that work now? I mean, you guys, if you picked up and say next week you guys started playing, that's kind of where you would go towards. That's
pretty
just
much.
I think
just
so.
the way
yeah.
we are.
Yeah, that's just we're wired that way.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, how are we going to get you to do that? Get you back together?
I do think
We've got
we've all
stuff.
talked about it.
Yeah.
I think we definitely have a third album in us.
Yeah.
Um,
I want a third album by me.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot on the first album that I had never done before. And then when I did the second album, I was like, well, I want to be better than that. And so that's what I did. And now it's to the point where it's like, okay, I want one more. You know, I just want one more because, like, I've been sick. I've not been able to do a whole lot of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm going to do one more
Yeah.
for me. For me and nothing else. You
Oh,
know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do, you know. And, you know,
So are you guys writing or?
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Good.
mean, we've got one already recorded.
Probably, maybe,
Actually, more like two.
I was going to say maybe two that
We've
we
got a
could.
couple we
And
kind of
Jeremy
demoed up.
or
Yeah.
Richard's got a lot of stuff that he's already got finished. That
I was going to say, Richard
Yeah.
has
It's
like
already
10
done.
albums
Richard's got about.
like stockpiled at the house.
This
Yeah.
one and this one.
He's got stuff that he's already finished that I'm going to have a hard time with because I don't want to add anything to it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it sounds badass
Ready to
the
go.
way it is. I don't
Yeah,
need
I
a guitar
never
in
stop,
it, you know.
as
Yeah,
the
he
seats
never
quit.
stops.
Yeah.
I just kept writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think if we picked up today, you know, I think I'm a better drummer than I was when the C's kind of left off. So I mean, it wouldn't take me like
I've got a lot of
we got
work.
together for Logan's wedding,
Yeah.
and I hadn't listened to the C stuff in a while, and got all those set lists and samplers. Pulled up a set list.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna play this, and I played through a couple songs. I called Mike that night. I was so pumped up. I was like, I think I could run the set tomorrow.
Are you ready? It's like, are you ready to run the set tomorrow? I can do this. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready. You
Yeah.
know, I would do it. I think when it ended, it's like I'd done it for so long, and it took such a big priority in my life. It's like, what am I now? You know, if I'm not a drummer for the C's. What do I do?
It
And
is
it
a
hurt
huge-
me. It hurt me for a while. That's
Yeah.
why I didn't listen to those albums for a while. Because man, it's hard.
So all those bands you guys played in before, and you mentioned those guys. I mean, a lot of them probably still around, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would say because I was talking to Alan Reed, I was telling you guys earlier down at Love Is Real. That's a plug. He was talking about some of those bands back in. I thought it was a little bit sooner, but it was actually in 98, 99 area.
Yeah.
And he says he runs in those guys all the time. You know, I wonder if they kind of go through the same thing you do, Richard. It's like, man, I used to play in those bands, and
Right.
you know, and I know a couple of the guys that were in Musicians Forum. I won't drop all their names, but they talk about some of those bands sometime. You wonder, man, you know, what would it take to get, you know, some of these bands together? And then the big issue, where we play and who we play to.
Right.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
I would love it, man. I would love to get a bunch of these bands back together because you know if they took that much of their life, you know what I'm saying? They have to miss it. I couldn't go a day. I went home after work today and played drums. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I cannot not do this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you know, some of them have to miss it, and I wish that there would be a scene again like there was.
What would you? I mean, you guys have seen it, you know, and of course we're talking COVID. That's a different kind of measuring stick to
Yeah.
how things have changed. But
Yeah.
I mean, how do we do it now? How do we?
That's tough. I mean, so much of it. I don't think that the passion with the bands are really any different. I think the bands that are out there and like doing it are just as passionate as we were
Yeah.
back in the day. I don't know what has changed in driving people to want to go see local music and catch a local show.
Yeah.
But it seems like the fire for that has just went out, and
Yeah.
people are just not excited to go. And I don't know if it's just there's so many other shiny things now, you know, that people are just so distracted,
Yeah.
or they just have lost the passion for it. But it's a different animal now.
Now, I will say that White Rabbit Records down in Corbin, they're striking that match
Listen,
hard.
I saw some
They do
pictures from
shows
that.
down there.
Just what was
know,
it, Saturday night or Friday night?
They do
Eventide?
shows down there in a room about like that right there, and they will pack them out, and the kids are having fun. And
Well, that's what's going to take,
Yeah.
you know, those kind of things, because it's going to have to be the kids. It's not going to be
Yeah.
our age group,
Right.
or even maybe even our kids. It's going to be even younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to really kind of change that mentality. Because the thing that I'm seeing, and this is just my opinion only, and you know, who knows what other folks will say about what I'm about to say, is it seems to be that when someone does well, then they're all of a sudden, they take ownership, and they just played or opened for so and so. Now I'm going to go see them now. When you had 20 years of
You had
Absolutely.
they could have played on your front porch,
Yeah.
you know, and they would have been just as happy. And they're doing the same music.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, case in point, you were involved in Thursday Night Live back in the day.
Heck yeah.
We booked Sturgill Simpson.
Oh, yeah.
Sturgill Simpson.
It was Sunday Valley
Yeah.
at that time, but he played in front of the courthouse, downtown London.
For $750.
Yeah,
And he was not even he was.
nobody. I mean, there was just people on their phones, and it's like they didn't even know what they were seeing.
And now they'll fight over it.
Yes,
To see.
yes,
And also Tyler Childers.
yeah.
Yeah,
Tyler
same
Childers
thing.
was the
Played the
same.
Master Musicians Festival the same year we did.
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
seeing where he was at Red Rocks last year or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh yeah, he's household name,
Right.
just like Stapleton, and
Yep.
And so you say some of these guys that are playing. I'm excited to see the boys from Frontier playing a Bluebird down there, and Nashville's eating up their thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And London loves them too, but it's like they'll come back here and people will pack out because they saw them play down
Yeah,
there.
but that's what it
Well,
took to get them excited
Well,
in the first place.
even when me and Mike were playing in '99 and 2000 in Lexington, one of our buddies that played bass and sang in a band is the bass player for Five Finger Death Punch now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there wasn't that many people in Lexington going to that shows.
That's true. That's true.
But and it's like you said, after they've done something, after they've become
They're on the
a
radar.
shiny object.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I worry about is that we as bands or guys, we're playing music that we enjoy. I'm not saying anything about that our tastes are wrong or different, but sometimes it's harder for us to sell that, so people just like, well, they'll discredit that because I don't like that style or like that sound. I think what I like is the energy part of it, where we're lacking. I think I see a lot of folks play and they just don't have the energy.
Mm-hmm.
That the rawness of what you guys were talking about in your original bands in the '90s, man, they just didn't care what you kicked broke through.
Oh, yeah.
It just
Yeah.
damage. We'll figure out the damages
There's
tomorrow.
a lot of angst that you have
Yeah.
at that time.
And there's a sense of danger, but we don't have to really destroy property. But
we destroyed some property. Yeah.
but I really want to see some of that come back with the bands. I just don't see the younger, and I wish I could tune into that. Are these bands? They're young kids playing in bands now. I mean, where are they? What
I
are
would
they
hope
doing?
so.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of them reach out to me on social media and stuff.
Mhm.
Just because they listened to our stuff and then they started their own bands.
See, that's it.
Yeah,
You guys,
and I try to foster that as much as I can.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought up White Rabbit Records, because that's where they're going.
Yeah.
That's where they're going and playing shows.
And it's cool to have a place like that too.
Yeah,
Like
and honestly, if there were a fire to get lit again, that's how it's going to start.
yeah,
Because it's not necessarily that there aren't bands doing it. There's a lot of bands that are doing it. You just don't hear about it because there's nowhere for them to do it right now. I mean, there's some great bands, heavier bands, stuff that you can't go see at the Butcher's Pub.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, now in 2023, 2022, you've got places where people are playing music. It may not be our type of music, but they are playing music there.
Yeah, there's definitely more of a scene.
Because in 2001, you weren't playing any shows in a restaurant or any show. There were no bars.
Mm-hmm.
You just weren't playing anywhere public.
Mm.
You were playing at people's houses, or you were going out of town.
That was it. I mean, we were
Yeah.
traveling to Richmond, Lexington, Knoxville,
yeah.
and beyond.
Goldfish Theory, I drove from Richmond, Kentucky to Jamestown, way up past Somerset,
Yeah.
to Jamestown for practice, and drive back to Richmond, Kentucky. If we had a show, I drove from Richmond, Kentucky to London, to Jamestown to pick up our stuff, to Richmond to play a show, back to Jamestown, back to London, drop off the van, back to Richmond, back home.
Oh
You
my
know what I mean?
There's no way you get money back on the gas.
You weren't,
No, it wasn't.
you weren't,
It
you
wasn't
weren't
about
playing
that.
shows in London.
Yeah.
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 If you did, it was somebody's birthday, or it was, hey, let's throw
Like a private, like a house party.
let's throw a hiller in this field and we'd
Yeah.
have fun doing
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
you weren't playing shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even though there's opportunities now in London, there's bars and different places that bands can play. It's a certain type of band that can play there.
I know. Yeah.
Like
And that's
it's for entertainment value, and there's something to be said for that. But a lot of the bands that were in our boat, where we're trying to do original stuff, we're trying to do something different. Kind of push the envelope a little bit. probably not the setting for that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's tough.
But it is a start, at least.
It is a
and
start.
to be honest with you, none of that would have went down, in my opinion, if it hadn't been for Thursday Night Live.
Yeah, I think
Starting
Thursday
music
Night Live
and
shifted,
fighting for it right on Main Street opened up a lot of doors.
Well, and here's the thing that I'll say between Mike and Chris Minton.
Mm-hmm.
Those two brought so many bands that we would not hear. We would not flip through the radio. We would not do a Google search. We would not, hit Spotify on them.
Yeah.
But when they played, and you guys brought in some big names that
We did.
are playing big festivals
Yeah.
now, and I'll see them in the festival like, oh my gosh, they played the front steps.
Yeah.
And there was maybe 100, maybe 110 people there,
Yeah.
and they're playing to 30,000, in these big.
We picked some really good up and coming acts. We tried really hard to try to have something for everybody. A different genre.
And then you had local nights too.
We had local nights, which a lot of the bands that we booked were local. Even either the opener or the headliner would be local, or if they weren't local, they had some kind of a tie to London, Laurel County.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're a member was from here originally or something like that. We really tried to connect it all together.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case 100% of the time because there were just some bands that we just felt were so good that were from at least the region.
Yeah.
That deserved a spot, and we thought would be a really cool band to bring to London, and we brought a lot of them. We did.
And honestly, when I think back on it, it didn't take much.
No.
It really didn't.
No.
I mean, it wasn't a big, huge budget we had.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't. It just and the volunteers doing it.
Yep.
People who truly wanted music, and honest to goodness, I think probably the most coolest nights just sitting out there looking up and seeing the sun setting, stars coming out, courthouse, and there's music playing, and just sit back and
Kids
chill.
drumming on the road with
Yeah.
chalk and
Yeah.
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 And with the new park, that can still be very simulated there, even in a more safer environment.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I think Thursday Night Live is what brought us that. Right?
I do not disagree with that
the
at all.
next natural progression for that kind of a music scenario here in London. But you're right. We bootstrapped it. It was volunteer. We had a volunteer committee, and you had some really awesome sponsors that believed in what we were doing, and we just made it happen.
Yeah. I would like to think we could, with enough of us. I mean, we're adults now. we all have jobs and responsibilities and kids and stuff like that. So I feel like we kind of have a voice. It would be nice if we all kind of figured out a way to, allow that kind of thing to happen again. I don't know how we can make it happen, but I'm just really glad that you guys are talking about maybe making some new music. That would be really cool. Live, even if it's live or even if it's on this, just hearing you guys play again. And
I think we're all on board with that. I think that's something we all kind of feel like we're not really finished.
Yeah.
Jeremy's not with us tonight. He's got other obligations now. That's I don't think he's going to be a part of the season. Anything we do moving forward, and we understand that.
Sure.
But that we're not done.
Right. Good.
So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if we have another. If we just find another bass player, which that's tough because the chemistry.
That
you can't.
It's hard. You can't.
Yeah. The chemistry is a special thing, and it's really important to have that. And I don't know that we'll find that same chemistry, but we might find a different chemistry,
Sure.
Yeah.
Or we might have Richard replace him with a machine of some kind.
That has been brought up.
But I mean, in some way or another, we do want to move forward, and I think we'll figure it out, whatever that looks like.
One way or another.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave with this, and I was really encouraged what you said, Logan, about you hearing of kids playing and they're reaching out to you.
Absolutely.
I just encourage all of us older folks like myself that we continue to encourage and give them inspiration, and do not let them not be heard.
Yeah.
They really need to be heard.
Oh yeah.
So-
If you have a creative spark that you want to get out, find people that are like-minded that will support you in that, and don't listen to anybody else. If we would have got on Topics back in the day, you remember Topics?
Oh my gosh.
If we would have got on Topics back in the day, which was the precursor to social media.
Oh sure, yeah.
And listen,
filled with poo.
yeah, and listen to anything that anybody there had to say. We would have sold everything and moved, far, far away.
Yeah.
But you just got to kind of ignore all that. Follow your creative spark. Do what makes you happy, what you're passionate about. Find other people that will support you in that and rock and roll.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, Richard, Logan, thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to hear what's next.
You got it.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thanks, guys.